Hello and welcome to the post-apocalyptic world of Days Gone. In this video, I'll be telling you exactly what happens in the 2019 game in a short and concise video. So naturally, spoilers are ahead. If you don't want the game spoiled but want to find out a bit more about it, then you can watch my spoiler-free review by clicking up here. Let's go. Welcome to Oregon, USA, set sometime in the near future. A global virus known as the Freaker virus has ripped across the globe, turning those infected into zombie-like creatures known simply as Freakers or Freaks. During the outbreak, two outlaw bikers, our playable character Deacon St, and his friend Boozer attempt to flee the city to safety alongside Deacon's wife Sarah. During the commotion, Sarah spots a kid alone and tries to help her, but the little shit is actually infected and stabs Sarah. Nice one. Deacon and Boozer manage to get Sarah to a nearby chopper operated by Nero, the National Emergency Response Organization. The young officer O'Brien reluctantly agrees to take Sarah with him with the help of a little bit of gun pointing by Deacon. He explains she'll be taken to a nearby evacuation camp, but he only has room for two on the chopper. Deacon, spotting that Boozer is injured and unlikely to survive on his own, stays behind and tells Sarah he will meet her at the camp, and we all think, yes, that will absolutely happen. Flash forward 2 years and Boozer and Deacon are still riding together. They now act as drifters stroke mercenaries, taking on jobs for the nearby camps for credits, which now act as the world's currency. We learn through dialogue that Deacon did make it to the evacuation camp where Sarah was taken, but it was overrun with freakers, and everybody who went there is assumed dead, including his wife. One day, when out riding, Boozer and Deacon are attacked by a gang of insane cultists known as Rippers, who pin Boozer down and decide to cook his arm until it's medium rare. Deacon manages to save Boozer, but his arm is naturally in a very bad way. He takes his friend back to their makeshift home in the mountains and allows Boozer time to recover. While running a job for a nearby camp, Deacon is shocked to spot a Nero chopper, assuming that Nero had all been killed. He tracks down the chopper and confronts one of the scientists. As luck would have it, the scientist is none other than O'Brien, the very same guy who he met on the night of the outbreak on the rooftop. Deacon, seeking closure about Sarah, asks what happened, but O'Brien explains that the camp fell before his chopper arrived, and therefore they were diverted to a different one. Deacon realizes that this means there's a possibility that Sarah is still alive. Deacon is later sent on a job for Tucker, the leader of a nearby work camp, to find a girl said to be living out alone. Deacon finds the young girl named Lisa and discovers she's been on her own the entire time. He takes her back to the camp. However, sometime later, Lisa runs away from the camp and is taken by Rippers. Deacon infiltrates one of their camps and saves Lisa. However, she is psychologically and physically damaged from the torture. Not trusting Tucker to keep Lisa safe, Deacon contacts a woman named Ricky who takes Lisa back to her camp. Meanwhile, Boozer's health deteriorates and he begins to suffer from blood poisoning and even holds a gun to Deacon whilst hallucinating. Begrudgingly, due to Deacon's lack of trust and willingness to rely on others, he takes Boozer to a camp that the two of them used to live at called Lost Lake. The camp is led by a man named Iron Mike and is where Ricky is from. One of the members of the camp is a man named Schizo. He and Deacon share a mutual dislike for each other. Addy, the camp doctor, amputates Boozer's arm in order to save him, and Deacon has to run a few jobs for the camp in payment. When asking about Lisa, Deacon learns from Ricky that she ran off one night and hasn't been seen since. Sometime later, O'Brien reaches out to Deacon and asks for help with his research in return for his help in looking into Sarah. Iron Mike, the leader of the Lost Lake camp, has a long-standing truce in place with the Rippers, meaning neither side shall attack the other. Schizo, however, doesn't trust Iron Mike's truce and cuts his own deal with the cultists, which involves betraying Deacon and handing him over to them.
Sorry, it was the only way.
Deacon soon awakes and finds the Rippers' leader, Carlos, torturing him. He soon recognizes Carlos as Jesse Williamson, a man who Boozer and Deacon had conflict with in the old world during their time in a motorcycle club. This explains why the Rippers attacked Boozer. Carlos burns off one of Deacon's biker tattoos before a Ripper later comes to our rescue and frees us. We noticed that the Ripper is actually Lisa. Terrified and traumatized, she fell into the cult but saves Deacon due to his kindness to her earlier in the game. Deacon escapes the Ripper camp and manages to help Lisa get away too. He later, with the help of Boozer, returns to the camp and breaks the dam above it, drowning all of the cultists. While working for O'Brien, Deacon learns that the Freakers are evolving and becoming stronger and more dangerous. Deacon then realizes that because Sarah worked for a government scientific research company, she would have had federal security clearance, which would have been prioritized during her evacuation. Because of this, O'Brien discovers that Sarah would have been taken to a military outpost in Crater Lake. However, warns that the camp is now ran by a private military group called the Deschutes County Militia. Deacon bids farewell to Boozer and, with the help of Iron Mike, heads over the mountains into militia territory. When there, he meets a militia captain named Corey. Deacon notices that Corey is wearing his ring, which he gifted to Sarah on the night that he left her. Deacon is introduced to the Colonel, the crazy and tyrannical leader of the militia. The Colonel takes a shine to Deacon and allows him to enroll in the company. When being introduced to the organization's lieutenants, we discover that one of them is, yep, you guessed it, Sarah. This is the scene we've all waited for, and despite expecting it to be very emotional and the credits to soon roll, Sarah maintains her military stance and addresses Deacon simply as a soldier.
What?
Read this. I mean, you can read, can't you?
Active ingredients: chloroform, aterpenol, benzoyl alcohol, ethyl acetate.
Good enough. When can he start?
When the Colonel leaves, the two embrace. However, Sarah is notably reluctant towards him. I guess that this can be explained by the fact that she assumed him dead for 2 years, and the natural fact that both of them have changed considerably during that time. We later learn that both Sarah and Lieutenant James Weaver are in a race to create their own bioweapon to wipe out the Freakers. Deacon heads out to collect items to help both with their research. After a while, the spark begins to return between Deacon and Sarah, and she begins to let down her hardened military front. And after a particular job on the road together, the two finally reunite properly and the feelings return. They then, one can assume, have some pretty intense sex.
Yeah, boy.
When returning, the two decide that it's a clever idea to share a kiss inside the huge military camp. It's obviously not, and Captain Corey sees them. Later, the two head back to Sarah's old research facility to source better equipment. When there, Sarah makes the shocking discovery that the research that they were working on actually created the virus. One of her colleagues had somehow created and caught the virus before going to a science convention and spreading it. So began the outbreak. A distraught Sarah is consoled by Deacon and reveals that, unbeknown to the Colonel, she is actually creating something to try and cure the Freakers, not destroy them, believing that there are still people inside there. Meanwhile, the Colonel begins to spiral even further into his tyrannical madness and grows paranoid. He in turn places Lieutenant Weaver and Sarah under protective custody so that they can focus on their work. Deacon plans to escape with Sarah and take her away from the crazy militia and allow her to continue her research back at her old lab. To do this, he calls upon O'Brien again, who agrees to fly his chopper over the camp and evacuate the couple. When escaping with Sarah, we run into the Colonel, who is showing around some new recruits. One of them, Deacon notices to be Schizo. The chubby prick launches into a tirade about Deacon and how he's in with the Lost Lake camp. O'Brien does arrive, but due to the armed men firing at him, he decides to flee. Deacon is placed under arrest and is questioned. He denies Schizo's claims, stating that he doesn't even know him until Schizo says he knows about Deacon's tattoos.
He wasn't wearing a shirt. Son of a bitch has a tattoo covering his back. It's some satanic shit. It's some kind of dog, a dead dog chewing through a chain or something, like it was nothing.
His shirt is ripped open and proves that Schizo is telling the truth. In an attempt to save Sarah, Deacon says that he had taken her as a hostage to use her as protection in his escape, keeping their marriage a secret and protecting Sarah from any punishment. Deacon is ordered to be hung by the neck the following day by the colonel before being knocked out. However, he awakes to find himself away from the camp. Captain Curry, realizing the true nature of his and Sarah's relationship, frees him and hands him his ring back, explaining that he did not know it was his and that the colonel collects everyone's jewelry on arrival in the camp. Curry and his unit plan to leave due to the colonel's growing insanity, but warns Deacon that due to Schizo, the colonel is planning to attack the Lost Lake camp. Deacon rushes off to the camp and finds it freshly attacked. The Lost Lake survivors manage to defend the camp, but in the process, Schizo killed Iron Mike.
You do what you have to. You keep this camp safe.
Deacon, assuming a leadership role, rallies the survivors and hatches a plan to strike back. During the assault, Boozer plays the hero role and crashes a bomb-rigged truck through the gates, allowing the group to get inside the fortress. Deacon, devastated by the loss of Boozer, forces himself to continue on. He finds and subsequently kills Schizo before being captured again by the colonel, who is bizarrely holding a Last Supper type dinner with his remaining survivors, including Sarah. He is offered tea but notices Sarah shake her head. This is because Sarah has poisoned the tea and the colonel dies, effectively ending the militia. Outside, the group celebrate their victory and we discover that Boozer somehow survived.
Boozer. Sorry I'm late.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I jumped.
No, what the fuck?
Just before I ran out of bridge.
I saw the truck.
No, I felt the blast wave.
The trio are united again finally and return to the Lost Lake camp. A short time later, in a post-completed game scene which lots of gamers tend to miss, O'Brien asks us to meet him. He warns Deacon again about the evolving nature of the Freakers and says that Nero have known about it all along. He then removes his helmet to reveal that he in fact is infected with a mutated strain of the virus. It seems to allow him to maintain human intelligence and communication, but grants him superhuman-like strength and agility. With a sadness in his voice, he warns Deacon that Nero are coming for the survivors and that no one can stop them.
Come. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do to stop them.
He then performs a pretty cool Freaker-esque parkour onto his chopper and leaves. And I sit there thinking,
What the fuck?
yeah, exactly, Deacon. And that's what happens in Days Gone. Plenty of questions remain unanswered and fans of the game are currently applying pressure to the developers to produce a sequel. So, here's hoping. For more videos just like this, please hit subscribe.